Well, good evening from a final tour of the occupied zones, the protest site stretching from Admiralty government headquarters and the legislature over to the Eye of the Storm at Wan Chai police headquarters. Here we have a more solemn and calmer scene nearer to the site of where a protester died last Saturday, where floral tributes, origami tributes, incense burning, and lots of post-it note messages have been appearing all week. Protesters have held vigil and cleaned up the site here, and there's another tribute at the bottom of the so-called Lennon Wall over at Harcourt Road, but you can see that people have created planters where they've stashed the flowers that have been building up throughout the week. This is Democrat Roy Kwong. We've just heard, in fact, that Joshua Wong, Demosisto activist, will do a show of hands at 11:30, which is just in a few minutes' time, to see if demonstrators wish to remain around the government headquarters. Having said that, this is a leaderless movement. Unclear if he will have the authority to make such decisions, but nevertheless the majority of demonstrators seem to be around police HQ, where they've barricaded the police into the zone there. It's a bit rainy actually down here, so you can see people now unfurling their umbrellas. So it was at this site last Saturday that a protester unfurled a protest banner just on a podium at a Pacific Place Mall, and a few hours later, as night fell, as firefighters tried to assist him, he fell from up on height, missed a inflatable cushion put out by the authorities, and died upon arrival at Refugee Hospital. And it's been a big theme of the protests since then, including the 2 Million Man March on Sunday, with people paying tribute, some saying there's blood on the hands of the government. A suicide note was found, and police are treating it as such. But all week people have been passing by, leaving flowers, messages, tributes. He was wearing a yellow raincoat, hence you see some of those symbols. So just a few hundred people, and some barricades down here at Queensway. People lighting candles, white lilies, flowers are used in funerals in Chinese culture. Stop shooting us, we just want to go home. President Trump, liberate Hong Kong. A lot of political messages around here. It's Buddhist chants. Effectively a shrine to the, I think, 35-year-old man, surnamed Leung. So countless messages for that protester who died last Saturday. I think we're going to leg it over to the rear of the legislature via the occupied Harcourt Road, the flashpoint of those 2014 umbrella movement protests. Where there are thousands sitting in the road, although as I came up through the MTR, there were hundreds of people leaving and few arriving. Had a smattering of rain, and rumours that people may dissipate overnight. One of the more prominent Democrats down here, Roy Kwong, addressing the remaining crowds now. I think he's leading a moment of silence, so let's take a moment here. Very low police presence, hardly seen any officers. Many may be trapped in the police headquarters, but these roads have simply been coned off by protesters, and Democrat Claudia Mo said that the government dare not interfere at the moment as long as there are peaceful protests happening. The worst we have seen today really is people hurling eggs at the police headquarters and some rotten fruit, perhaps tomatoes. Other than that, things have taken a turn for, I guess, wildcat civil disobedience. Very much grassroots, spontaneous, leaderless acts of civil disobedience, very unpredictable, whereby there's an ambulance here, people have been allowing ambulances in and out. So people have been occupying roads, government facilities throughout the day. And of course the day began with people occupying the rear of the legislature. It was 5 p.m. last night that a deadline was given by a few student groups separate to the main organising pro-democracy coalition, the Civil Human Rights Front, who've been leading some of the 2 million man marches, according to their turnout figures. These student groups, and it is mostly young people clad in black, occupying the roads at the moment, they set a deadline for several demands to be met by the government, or a response, including protesters being released who were arrested in recent days, weeks, for the retraction of the characterization of last Wednesday's unrest as a riot, for the extradition bill to be axed. One thing they've not been calling for the last day or two is the resignation of Chief Executive Carrie Lam. You can see people have erected steps so they can get over the road divisions. Actually, just an hour or two ago, when I was last here, these roads were pretty full. And now I wouldn't be surprised, although I am tired of being wrong, if these roads are reopened by morning. I think after protesters vowed to escalate their demonstrations, they certainly achieved that today by ensuring government headquarters, the legislature, and government offices over at Revenue Tower, where these occupations continue eastwards all the way down, were shut down. So a lot of disruption. The government had admitted that. It's also emphasized that it has no intention of bringing back and pushing this controversial extradition bill, but they still won't go as far as to say that it has been permanently axed. That perhaps would mean admitting defeat. So this is another site that's been building up over recent days. The Lennon Wall, as it was called during the Umbrella movement, with the one difference being there is a shrine at the bottom to the protester we just spoke about who died last week. People paying their respects. And then all the way up the stairs, just around the government headquarters legislature, you got multilingual messages of support a lot of anger against the police, against the establishment. No withdrawal, no retreat, stop police brutality. I think it is true to say that turnout at recent protests, and certainly today, has been bolstered by anger over alleged cases of police misconduct, brutality, and what many see as an overreaction last Wednesday when, right here, they unleashed tear gas, rubber bullets, beanbags against protesters after several on the front lines pushed forward, throwing objects like metal poles and bricks. Tear gas was obviously quite indiscriminate, affecting, I think there must have been tens of thousands of protesters around here, some of them struggling to find shelter over there in a CITIC tower. Many critics now calling Carrie Lam a lame duck leader, and some unflattering cartoons and placards just surrounding Civic Square here, another protest flashpoint. So it was this morning at 7 a.m. That we saw on mass telegram groups and among student unions that protesters were set to gather. It was a very hot morning, and we saw people very prepared for potential scenes of unrest. Here we see a first aid station and lots of supply stations. Yoga mats were all set up with water in case there was a police crackdown. Didn't happen. It's been very low profile all day. And just at the rear of the Ledgeco here is where it all began, where Demosisto's Joshua Wong, who was released from prison on Monday after serving some of his sentence for the umbrella movement related charges. He's been rallying people and apparently just put it to a vote whether people should stay or go, but it looks like people are streaming away. So it was just before 11ish that, in the face of very few police around here, protesters barged into Harcourt Road, halted traffic, and from there fanned out straight over to police headquarters, and then pushed further eastwards to Revenue Tower, where, at least for a moment, they were occupying the ground floor there, causing workers to halt and go home. This is the scene at the back of Ledgeco, where a lot of people camped overnight last night, and I imagine some may be bedding in for this evening, but crowds have certainly thinned. It's been a hot, long day, and it's raining a bit now, which may be a bit refreshing. We bumped into a few legislators today, but no sign of Joshua Wong, who was leading a vote here earlier. So finally, let's leg it over to Wan Chai Police Headquarters. That's where the majority, if you check the live streams and television, are swarming around, hurling eggs at the station, and they've erected some pretty meaty barricades attached to the gates there. Police have said that they have been unable to respond appropriately to dozens of 999 calls. They've asked protesters to leave. Just a handful of police, maybe 1 or 2 dozen, at the perimeter of the building. Thousands of protesters in goggles, hard hats, hurling pretty graphic profanity whenever there was any slight movement at the Wan Chai headquarters for the police. So back onto Harcourt Road, a scene we never thought police would allow to be repeated, if only for the symbolic value, and several times over the last few weeks we've seen this road occupied, supplies being moved in and out, but a lot of people leaving now. Been reactions throughout the day. We caught up with pro-Beijing lawmaker Regina Ip at her office in Wan Chai, just a block or two from where some of the protests were taking place, and she urged people to stop inconveniencing the city and to go home, saying that Lam has done enough in apologising. Although she didn't go as far as to say that that they would support the axing of the extradition bill. Here we are, some graffiti just on the flyover. Fuck the police, say no to extradition bill, fuck Carrie Lam. Yes, just speaking to an activist down in Wan Chai. What's the scene like over there at the headquarters?
Have you been over?
We're about to go down and have a look. That's the eye of the storm,
it's
is
crazy.
it not?
It's crazy. There's
just a lot of anger?
No, it's much calmer. It was angrier a few hours ago, but there's just as many people as ever. I think it looks pretty certain a very large number are going to stay for the night. Tomorrow's Saturday, so a lot of people don't have anything they have to get up and go to.
People have been dissipating over the last hour or two?
Not
it seems
at all.
Thinner here.
Not at all. It's in Arsenal Street, it's just so packed that they were asking people to move into the side streets because it was too crowded.
Any response or action from the police, or are they just cheering every time they move? I
don't know. I haven't. Oh, there's absolutely no sign of any kind of aggressive action by the police. There was a period a couple of hours ago when most of the police had gone inside, and there were a dozen or so who were at the top of the escalators, and there's a metal shutter there, and the shutter was mostly down. And for some reason, their superior told them to stay out there. So they were just getting pelted with eggs like crazy. And they had their long shields out and all of that. And it took a long time for us to get them to stop and get the demonstrators to stop throwing eggs at them. And then eventually they went inside, and ever since then it's been very, very calm.
Is that the worst we've seen today? The eggs and a few tomatoes, I understand?
Yeah, there's eggs and tomatoes. That was what it was.
Pretty new tactics this time with wildcat occupations, like water, as one person put it in an AFP piece we saw.
Yeah, well, already last night the government had announced that government headquarters were closed and workers weren't to come. And so in a way that the immediate goal, the first goal, was accomplished without people even going out. So people assembled today, and before long it became clear that coming over to police headquarters was the thing to do, because people are very angry at the police. I mean, I've just been walking along here and seeing all the graffiti that's just gone up, and I can't remember the last time I've been at a demonstration where people were spraying graffiti like that. There's just people have calmed down now, but there was really a lot of anger earlier.
It did seem like a knife edge before.
Yeah.
What do you think the public reaction will be to basically the protesters barricading the police in or outside of their own headquarters here, because they've been complaining they can't respond effectively to 999 calls, and there's some pretty meaty barricades attached to the gates there?
Well, obviously no vehicles can come in or out of police headquarters. That's certainly the case, but to my knowledge, police have stations all over the city. I haven't been following the news because I've been here, but it surprises me to hear that police are saying that somehow their headquarters being surrounded has diminished their ability to respond to other issues going on in the city. I think they've got other police stations, and of course they could deal with this situation quite easily if they were only willing to even talk with demonstrators. You know, the astounding thing is millions have taken to the streets now, and after all of this, neither Carrie Lam nor the Commissioner of Police have ever met with any demonstrators, never met with any groups that represent people who've been out on the street. It's absolutely astounding. What kind of government is that will not even countenance sitting down with citizens and asking them what the problem is? You know, and if you don't do that, this is what happens.
We saw on Telegram groups and some threats of potential, you know, clashes, violence. That didn't really happen tonight. What do you foresee, and what have you seen in these chat groups as to what could happen over the coming days? Because I understand people have been voting, at least back at the legislature, as to whether to even stay or not and continue to occupy these roads. What do you see happening this weekend? Since
we came over here, you know, earlier in the day, I've been so busy I haven't had a chance to follow. But my impression was that police were laying off, and they were thinking that maybe there would be a chance to clear once the middle of the night came and the numbers dwindled.
That's certainly what happened a few days ago.
Right.
The protesters themselves voted in the morning to clear out and felt that it was a job done.
Yeah, and I don't know, I have a feeling people will probably stay here through the night, but then beyond that, it's hard to know what will happen.
All right, thanks for joining us. I understand not every activist wants to be on camera, give their names, but I know that you're down here quite often, and let's inspect this meaty barricade here and be safe.
There are a lot of them.
Cheers. Well, hundreds of zip ties on this bad boy, which has been attached to those gates just at the side of the main Arsenal Street police headquarters in Admiralty. Water barricades, cones, masking tape. There must be thousands of cable ties here. It's going to take a while to remove this thing. But it was surprising a few days ago just how quickly, I think last Thursday, that the roads were reopened and cleaned overnight. So who knows what will happen in the early hours. But our activist friend there wasn't wrong about there still being big crowds here. You can see them observing from the flyover above. All of Arsenal Street closed. And whenever there is movement from the police inside, either seen at windows or when they swap out the officers on the front line, you get a lot of jeering, you get a lot of swearing. And it could be a long night. Who knows what they may be thinking, the officers inside headquarters here. We have a return of Sing Hallelujah. Scenes have been pretty angry and we haven't heard that song for a while. It's quite enjoying not hearing it, but this is the front line now, where everyone has converged. It's a bit quieter, hardly anyone down near Wan Chai and back at Harcourt. It's still pretty tense. You can see just how many eggs have been hurled. It's soaked by the government headquarters here. Sorry, police headquarters. The emblem has been defaced. Graffiti all down the wall. Pretty unusual for Hong Kong. And barricades at the bottom of the escalators here, all tied up with zip ties.
in my room.
Protesters seem to be aiming their anger and their flashlight, at least with that guy, at the police that you can see just above where the press are gathered here, looking down upon a sea of protesters, many in hard hats, laser pointers being pointed at them.
You're right. So you're Tom, I heard of your name.
Sorry.
You go.
Opening up to welcome some fire services, paramedics it seems. police just behind us are filming the crowds. I think we're going to call it a night on the live stream. We do have a night shift on Twitter. We'll be giving updates and we'll see if these crowds are going to remain throughout the night. Very long, dramatic day in Hong Kong, and I'm sure we won't see the last of it this weekend.